Hello, everybody. Hello, Pandoranauts. Welcome to the show, Pandoradom. I'm your host, Paul Cradle. And here we finally have with us the man, the legend, Pierre. Welcome to the show, Pierre.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
All right. Now, Pierre is a very special guest, I would say. Certainly a interesting character who I've met during my travels in Southeast Asia, and we're finally lucky enough to have him. Very busy man. We're finally lucky enough to catch him on the show. So, how have you been doing, Pierre?
Pretty good. Just running to and fro, trying to connect the dots, make ends meet, of course.
Yeah. So,
And
which
um,
country are you coming from? Would you mind telling us?
yeah, I'm in Vietnam right now.
In Vietnam.
And for your viewers who don't know, Vietnam's a country in Southeast Asia. It's a very lovely place, but kind of chaotic.
Yeah, I agree. I have been there also, and that's where we met. And
I mean, it depends if you like chaos. Some people would find it endearing.
oh well, I kind of did myself, and you must, considering how long you've been there. And so,
I I feel you get you instead of getting a few screws loose, you kind of gotta become loose in order to survive in a place like this.
yeah, it does take a certain personality type. Well, not certain. I mean, a wide range of personality types can handle it, but there are it takes a skill to be able to handle living in such a place, don't you think? Most most
Well,
Americans you
if
wouldn't
you
recommend.
if you think like about India, for example, I spent about 6 months in India. The first thing you have to get used to in India is unwanted touching and conversations with people you don't want to
So
to
you
continue.
have been in India. You have spent time in India.
Yeah, you get kind of jammed into situations where you kind of want to step away. But Vietnam is a place where you kind of have to develop a very patient mind. You really have to accept things that are unacceptable.
In Vietnam. Yeah.
Yeah, in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've heard that you've had some situations in Vietnam um is that, you know, are interesting to a lot of people, particularly in the case of the school where we both worked. And we have actually we have worked at the same place at the same time, but we have also in the past worked at the same place at different times. Weren't you in Cambodia? I believe we
Yeah,
just
actually we were in Cambodia, I believe at the same time.
at the same
Um
time. I believe you worked at a an institution in 2015 in Cambodia that I was at maybe in 2021. Wasn't that how it played out? Something like that.
what was it? Okay, yeah. Well, the building is the same
I
and
think that
probably the
place,
curriculum
I think that
is
location
the
has
same.
shut down though.
Really?
But yeah, I think that location has shut down on the north side of Phnom Penh. Rasa Kyo, was
You
it?
you mean in Tulcork?
Oh, it was just north of Tulkort, wasn't it? Rasa Kyo, it was called.
Yeah, they had several locations kind of spread out through the
Yeah,
city, which I liked. Which I liked if you got, blackballed at one place, there was still there was still hope for you at the other place.
yeah, I was hired in multiple locations. also. So I did teach at the Tool Court location as well. So yeah, we've crossed
That was
paths. We've
that was
crisscrossed
my that
paths.
was my favorite place anyway. It seemed like the less
Wasn't it kind of
uh
cramped? Wasn't it a very small space in the hallways and stuff like that, from what I remember? If
um well, they have a an odd school plan anyway. It's kind of like a mass factory of it's almost as if they did design it to kind of look like a temple. Is would you consider
standing
that accurate?
to look like a temple, yeah,
Like it's like, and then it's
it's
got
like 11 or
the
12
slope.
stories tall.
Yeah,
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 that one.
yeah,
Yeah, that I know the one you're talking about. So we've crisscrossed paths before in China and Cambodia, and then we finally met in Vietnam, which was interesting because I think sometime before I actually went to Vietnam, I had dreams, I think, about that location with the yellow colored walls and even the steps and the red stamps that we used, and maybe even you. But it was a strange dream, kind of a deja vu feeling when I finally arrived there. Do you remember me freaking out about that? I must have told you. Everybody knows when I have.
um I remember, yeah, you had a few moments where you were, I'm not I wouldn't say you were edgy, but maybe that was deja vu.
I was tripping a little bit because it
Yeah,
was
I felt,
it
and
was
I
weird.
thought it was maybe jet lag, but I didn't realize that it was actually deja vu.
Yeah. So
That
so yeah, that's a nice segue into some of the things of a more mental nature that I think are the real meat of what I wanted to talk with you about today, about the things
yeah.
that you that were going on there. And so it's uh can be kind of hard to just jump right in to that because it's a kind of a strange issue. So I'm glad that we were able to discuss a little bit of more of how we met and where we've been and things like that, because this is getting a little strange when we get to the real meat of the issue
Well,
that I wanted to talk about. So
so if we're gonna jump right into that,
I mean we can, but
swimming circle of sharks. Yeah, sure. Let's
yeah,
just dive feet
yeah,
first.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So well,
Um,
without
so
further ado, without further ado,
I
what
think, I
what do
think,
you think was
I
going on
think,
there that you'd like?
well, to to really understand it, I think we need to discuss uh, like in Asia specifically, there's a lot of dysfunction, you know, like societal dysfunction, like and it can vary depending on a country, but things, it's like if you designed a cell phone that um couldn't make you didn't have a touchpad or something, so how would you so things are just like maybe they're designed not so well, or they're designed well enough, but people don't pay it mind. So I just want to establish that, like specifically in developing countries like China, and of course Philippines and Vietnam, less so in Thailand, but that's a different story. That's a segue I don't want to get into. Um, but there's dysfunction, there's general dysfunction. So, as I mentioned before, in Vietnam, you really got to accept the kind of the unacceptable. Um, and with the school where we were teaching, um, it was more than just yellow walls and barred windows that made it feel like a
Okay,
prison.
okay. What do you think was happening near the printer to ease into this?
So before we talk about that specifically, I
Hmm.
just want to say like um there were already a lot of conditions, or I would say type of conditioning in place that is beyond like normal schools. So the first thing I noticed was that um the teachers there were in league with each other, but against the males in general.
Two males being you
Okay.
and me, right?
Yeah, but also
There was a male.
males
There was a
just,
male PE teacher. There was a male Vietnamese man. Would you include him? Include him?
yeah, I would include him in the target list, and I'll explain what I mean by that because one of the teachers there was his girlfriend, so to speak, right? And or she had been, I don't know exactly, but she had been promised to him. And I want to emphasize that she was promised to him rather than that they were in a happy, loving relationship where people are like, you know, I love you, you love me, let's get married, let's do something foolish, right? No, it's more of a you work for this company, you're an attractive woman. Now you got to marry this guy in order for us to make a bigger school family, you know?
Oh,
Um yeah. And and yeah, that's why I'm mentioning this. They actually tried to do that to me with one of the math teachers. They made it
mm.
very explicit that they wanted me to pursue her.
And this is for a closer knit company. They wanted everybody tied together to be more
Yeah,
manageable.
so that more manageable, but also so that it would be difficult for them to just leave. Okay, and that's why I was saying that's the type of conditioning. Yeah,
So they didn't want people to just leave if they wanted them, if they
yeah,
wanted them there. Okay. Uh,
y-
and so, but
yeah.
you were not going to go along with this plan that you think they had.
No, because like the woman, we were like even arranged in events together as like how to say, I was the MC for their event and she was the female MC. So it was like a visible relationship. And actually she put her hands on me a lot. I don't know if you ever seen American Idol, but nobody was touching Ryan
Yeah.
Seacrest, right? He was
You think
always
is
like,
could it be maybe a cultural difference or something about
no,
no?
no, I don't think so. Because in Vietnam, there's very little touching between people of the opposite sex, right? So
Mm,
um like, and it was like repeated, even though I'd asked her a few times, because we did practice emceeing. We did
mm.
like one-on-one practice, and it was, like forced upon me. And I the manager, our manager, um, she was the one pulling the strings. She was the one
Yeah.
who who had tried to set up this kind of
Yeah.
forced
It's
relationship.
it would be really hard to infer intent exactly. I can't say one way or the other. I really don't know. You were, but I guess you're in the position. You would be the best judge of
Because
that.
they had offered to, they said, okay, well, we want you not to get a work permit, we want you to get a marriage
They told you that. They told you
visa.
that you wanted. They
Yeah.
wanted you to be married. They told. Did they say it?
In 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 as many words without exactly saying it and saying, don't like things like strongly suggesting, don't you like her? She's beautiful, she's sexy, and she's
Mm,
ready to have children, and basically, throwing her out there. Um,
yeah.
so just putting that background in, it's like it's
Ah,
not only just like one measure of control. There's a lot of mess waiting for,
yeah. Now,
I guess, unfortunate victims.
so you think that that was also just to, that was like a win-win set up by them, or were they kind of pushing you to do it, or do you think it was just an
That's
offer?
what I'm saying.
Do you think it
It
was more
was
than
it
just an
was
offer?
pushing.
More than just an
Well, she
offer?
was pushing it too.
They were
She was
both.
pushing it as well. They were pushing it, and she was physically pushing boundaries.
So the company was almost coercing you. Would you say it was almost a form of
Yeah.
coercement?
It was
But
it
you didn't
was
have to
it
do
was coercive because
it.
no, I didn't have to, but in the end, they asked me not to uh come anymore. They said, well, there's a termination in 2 weeks.
So it's kind of like your employment was
When
contingent upon that. So it was coercement insofar as that if you wanted to be employed there, then say that does
Yeah.
cross boundaries. So that would qualify as coercement, even though you didn't have to do it. They couldn't make you do it. It was crossing the line there when they said that your employment was contingent upon you doing it. Yeah, they crossed the line there.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm making guanciale, which is a type of dried um pork. It's like pork
Mm.
fat, very fatty pork.
Ah, I
Um,
see. So I understand you're very much into cooking. You're a foodie.
oh yeah, I mean, because you have to find some way to blow off steam and get your mind on wholesome things. So I often make Mediterranean food, or really a lot of different things, stews and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Because of all
Yeah.
this, because of all the crap you have to deal with in Vietnam. That
Yes, I mean, like, just getting to my work site is a life and death every day. You know?
life and death every day. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, I understand that you've had bicycle accidents.
Yeah, so yeah, I've had a few not like close calls because the speed is too low, but I've been taken out,
Yeah, I've heard about
and
that. Yeah,
I've even been paranoid that perhaps that someone was trying to take me out. Uh,
yeah. And and Pierre, speaking of paranoia, okay,
yes, sir. Yes,
what
sir.
what would you say was happening? What did you feel when you walked by the printer? Because I mean, I'll concur. I did feel something. There's a reason why I turn off Bluetooth devices. I don't use Bluetooth. I'll tell you because it gives me a headache. It does. I turn it off. And I can tell if I've accidentally left a Bluetooth device on or even just on seeking connections or something. I turn that off because I get a headache. So I
So,
concur there's something
okay,
there
so
involving frequencies that I did feel by the printer.
so you know, I think there's a difference between what you could call paranoia and experiences that are difficult to explain. Or, I mean, like,
Uh-huh.
so I just want to throw that out there before we go into
Yeah.
any other things that might make me sound like a crazy person.
Yeah.
But
Now,
before we
well,
go, I just want to say
let
that
me pause
that
you. Let me
paranoia.
pause you right there. Just a minute here, because paranoia is not always wrong. There's this saying, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. So it's not necessarily crazy, but I completely understand that it sounds crazy. So we might want to use another word for that instead of paranoia, right?
I would say like um internal confusion would be a more appropriate term,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll tell you why. Because number number one, um, so when I started noticing these physical sensations on my body, okay, I'm a pretty fit person. You know, I ride my bicycle um up to 50, 60 kilometers per day, which um keeps me fit and keeps my skin uh healthy and sensitive. So when I experience um something different, my body knows because I'm a well-oiled machine physically. You know, I mean, got a little chub around the middle, but you know, uh who doesn't
yeah.
these days, right?
So you're fit and you're physically aware. You have body awareness.
Yeah, so I would say like when you're physically active every single day, you become more physically aware. And I think people would agree, like when you're ill or when you're inactive a lot, your body kind of desensitizes to some degree, um, just physiologically. So
Mm.
when I picked up on these sensations, it was pretty intense, actually.
Mhm.
Um,
Now, I'm mostly concentrating on the feeling by the printer. Would you say that was the epicenter of it? That was the hot spot, the office printer?
oh yeah. Like, so first of all, the printer was not located in the office. Okay, the printer was located, um, you know,
Just next to the office.
far.
On the way out of
Well,
the office.
actually, it's quite far. It's out
Far.
of the way, you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you
There
remember.
was kind of like a little hallway. And then so we walked out into
Yeah,
like a foyer. Foyer.
there's a large foyer
Foyer.
with
Yeah.
um and it's blocked off. Uh
So there were two sets of doors that
and then
you had to go out,
yeah, you had to go
out of the
through two sets
office
of doors, a glass
and then
door and then
out of the foyer,
the modern plastic,
foyer,
you know,
and
that
then into the
that
library. And it was in the very corner of the library, but it was there.
yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
why, why, why do you think it wasn't in the office? Do you think there was some reason for that to not? Maybe it would be too obvious in the office, or
You see, that's a good question, and I don't really have um I, I don't have any theories as to why it was there, but
hmm,
um, I will say that the sensation happened when you were close to the printer, when you were within about 15 feet. Okay, you could really feel like pressure in your
yeah?
skull,
Did you hear something?
headaches,
Was there a high frequency?
and at times, sometimes like you would get this like ringing in your ears. I mean, it
Phantom,
varied.
not a real not a real acoustic sound, but like ringing, like a physiological ringing in the ears.
Right. Like, and the more I've researched that, I found that, hey, this is textbook Cuban
Mm,
intelligence,
mm,
um,
mm.
what they're using with microwaves.
Yeah.
Uh,
Havana syndrome, like that.
it's Havana syndrome. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So, um,
And so you called
we,
this the zappings, right? Would you call that, is that what you called the zappings?
yeah, I would say that yes, that um, it zapped you, and it seemed to be targeted. Okay, and I don't know about how. I would I would say that number one, I'm not qualified enough to uh to know technologically how they zap people. And
Was it
then number
targeted on
two,
you specifically or everybody? Or certain, just certain individuals?
I think both.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I think that like there's what you would call like background noise, the humdrum sound, microwaves that are just they're there to cause distraction as well as discomfort, like general discomfort.
Or just generally
And
to everybody, just general background discomfort to everybody.
everybody, yes.
But
And then
also
on
specific.
top of that,
Hmm.
I believe that there was perhaps specific targeting. Um, and the reason I know that is because I'm a pretty observant person and I had full view of the office. Okay. And I not only do I like take mental notes, but I was also taking notes um
Yeah.
occasionally of times. And so I noticed that okay, high frequencies or high levels of microwaves, whatever this weapon. I'm
Mhm.
not going to even say weapon, but it is a weapon.
Oh,
Um,
it is a weapon,
yeah, and
microwave weapon. The
I
Vietnam, is it run by the Vietnamese government? You believe?
I believe it's like I believe it's an alliance of different intelligence agencies. I'm going to list a few off. I'm going to say it's definitely Russia. I know Russia is involved um, in this. I know that it's Cuba because Cuba has the will, much
Uh,
they have to. They have to do it for their own people in order to keep them
yeah.
from revolting. I believe that potentially Venezuela,
Yeah.
just
So,
just your rogue nations.
and they use it to keep their own people from revolting. And so, as a foreigner in Vietnam, do you think it was more targeted to you than than the Vietnamese, or was it just everybody? Because
So I believe it was different targeting. And no, now, for example, I noticed that without without fail, certain people suddenly stood up and went to the toilet at the same time.
it sounds funny.
Um,
I got to agree. Yeah,
and at first, I just was like, "Wow, you guys drink a lot of water." You
I
know,
did. Yeah.
I I noticed. I noticed. I said, "I know it's hot, but Vietnamese people don't drink. They're not horses. You know, they're not like Western people where they've got a bottle of water with them all the time and they're always drinking water. Okay. Like
Mhm.
it's it's weird. Like the children do it because children run around, they get hot. They, children need a lot of water. Uh, but adults, and especially women, because women, they're weird about having to go to the toilet and peeing. Okay. Yes, and that's across any culture. Women are just weird about peeing. They'd rather hold it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, another interesting point about this is you believe that the zappings were different for males and females. Were they
Yeah.
especially
So
targeting the males?
yeah, so I think that they were targeting two areas on males. One is the testicles, um, and the other is like between the legs, like right here.
And they were
Uh,
targeting the males as opposed to the females. Why do you think? Why do you think not the females?
I just think it's different physiology.
I mean, didn't you think it was because the females were already docile enough not to be a threat to government?
Um, so just to make clear, that there's it's like imagine like a system that was like a chef with 20 arms, okay, and 30 burners. And there's a lot of things going on at the same time. There's a lot of different frequencies being emitted at the same time for different reasons. Some of it is background, some of it is specifically targeted at people. Some of it, I think, is just certain days of the year, sensitive days. They ratchet it up,
Gosh.
um, and different sensations. Sometimes it's just like headaches. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
the itchy throat syndrome.
Hmm.
Just or make you have to pee, or things that make you easily distracted. Like there's a lot of tools that they're using, I think, um to get effect.
Now, do you think it was to make them work harder? I remember you saying it was maybe to make you work more efficiently. You
On
still,
certain days, I think on certain days they wanted people to be working harder. And what I've noticed in Vietnam is that um like the work pace changes a lot, and I don't understand it well. Some of it is just conventional. They turn off the money tap. They have less money circulating in the economy. People, you know,
gosh.
maybe don't work as hard because they aren't getting as much money, or they have to spend money
So,
for
so,
certain
you, so
things.
the, so they, for economic reasons, they would turn up the microwave zappers to control the people in certain ways for economic gain.
Now, for example, I'll give you a really good example. The after National Day,
Hmm.
which was September 2nd, so the day after would be September 3rd. They ratcheted it up.
You
So
felt it,
for
and
all of,
you felt it
oh yeah, I felt it, and I
in
felt
your
it on the
male,
street
in your
too.
male parts specifically.
Uh, Headaches, uh, some like it's like a imagine if it's like you had a migrating topical burning sensation, right?
Gosh.
So like imagine if like there was like a magnifying glass on your balls.
Yeah. This is just, it gets incredulous, but but, but you feel it. And didn't you say that and we're not joking, right? This is not a joke, is it? You're not doing this for entertaining effect or something like that. You
No, no,
it's
no.
actually
I don't have answers. I have some observations that I would say are less than evidence,
yeah,
but more than a hunch.
more than a hunch, less than evidence. Do how about other people? Have others concurred? I mean, I've concurred with you about feeling something going by the printer, but I thought it was just maybe typical EMF sensitivity or something. But
So the thing is, it's not just microwaves. See, that's the thing. There's multiple layers of the system. And so what made me paranoid was when for example, one day I got a message. Now, this is my old place, not my new place. I got a message from my landlord, who won't be named, of course.
yeah.
Um, from my landlord that, oh,
Oh,
the
we have
plumbers.
less than a minute, so we'll have to continue this next time. If you're free. Um, but it's been a great discussion. I hope that we can have part two coming up soon, and you can continue the story about what was happening with your landlord. And it's not, and you're saying it's not just microwaves,
Yeah, there's layers to it. Yeah.
layers of mind control in Vietnam, and no joke. You're
No,
this
no,
is not this
no,
is
I'm not pulling the leg.
no, this is not for you. Don't think that's fun. You don't think it's funny, but
No, it's not funny. It's not. I mean, it's funny if you're, you know,
I
if
mean,
if you're
can
old.
you see the humor in it though? Can you see the humor in
I
it?
mean, it's there's